Every person you love is just a mask worn by the ghost of the one you loved first. Let's begin with a confession that tastes like rust and regret. Romantic love, as we know it, is a form of amateur necromancy. We don't fall in love with a person. We fall in love with a possibility. The possibility of finally staging a happy ending for a play that has been running in the haunted, dusty theater of our subconscious since childhood. The leading lady in that original production? Your mother? Oh, don't recoil. This isn't some crude textbook vulgarity. This is the secret architecture of all desire. Freud, that Viennese archaeologist of the soul, knew it. He saw that the human heart is not a fresh canvas, but a palimpsest, where every new love story is written directly on top of the faint, indelible script of the first one. When she, the one whose name is currently a fresh wound in your mouth, rejects you, the pain you feel is not just for her. You are not mourning the loss of a future. You are re-experiencing the primal, catastrophic loss of the past. Her indifference is the echo of your mother turning away at a crucial moment. Her criticism is the echo of a maternal sigh of disappointment that lodged itself in your spine like a shard of ice. Her leaving is a perfect, high-fidelity replay of the first time you realized that the source of all your warmth and safety could, in fact, withdraw. Every heartbreak is a seance. You think you are pleading with the woman who left you last Tuesday, but your soul is on its knees, begging for a ghost to finally approve of it. Think of it this way. In a forgotten corner of pre-industrial Europe, there was a strange custom. When a child was weaned, its mother would help it carve a small wooden figure, a poriv or abandonment doll. The doll was featureless, smooth, meant to be an effigy of the comfort that was now gone. The child would keep it, talk to it, sleep with it. As they grew, they would project onto this doll the faces of their friends, their enemies, their first crushes. When they truly fell in love, they would, in a secret ritual, paint the face of their beloved onto the featureless wood. The doll would become the vessel of all their hope. But if that lover left them, the paint would seem to fade. And beneath the cracking visage of the beloved, the smooth, blank, featureless face of that first great abandonment would reappear. The sorrow was not for the chipped paint. It was for the unchangeable, primordial wood beneath. You, my friend, are still clutching that doll. Modern science, in its sterile white coat fashion, has simply put new labels on these old ghosts. They call it attachment theory. Recent papers, filled with charts and regressions, confirm what the poets have always known. The patterns of connection we formed in our cribs become the tyrannical blueprints for every relationship we will ever have. The anxiously attached child becomes the man who clings, who suffocates his lover with a neediness that is actually a deferred plea for his mother's unwavering presence. The avoidantly attached child becomes the man who flees intimacy, who sabotages closeness because he learned long ago that need is dangerous and self-reliance is the only true armor. You think your relationship was unique? A singular constellation of two souls? Forgive my bitter smile. It was a chemical reaction preordained by the ghosts of your nursery. You were not choosing a partner. You were unconsciously seeking out a person who could perfectly dance the broken dance you already knew. You found someone who could press on your original wound with exquisite, maddening precision. Because that agonizing pressure feels, to the damaged soul, like home. It feels like love. The liberation, the strange, cold freedom that comes when the chase is over, is the moment you finally stop trying to cast a new actress for the old role. It is the realization that the play itself is the problem. The hope, fragile as a moth's wing, lies in understanding that you are not mourning her. You are mourning a foundational myth of your own identity. And because you wrote the myth, you have the power to burn it. This requires a terrifying act of introspection. It requires you to sit in the dark and unearth the ghost, to remember the feeling of a small hand in a large one, the scent of a particular perfume, the specific timbre of a voice that held the power of both heaven and hell. You must see her face, your mother's face, in the face of the woman who broke you. You must see that the power you gave this new woman was never hers to begin with. It was a power you projected onto her from the deepest, oldest vault of your own history. So let me ask you, as you sit there stewing in the exquisite poison of your heartbreak, when she said those final, cutting words, whose voice did you really hear? You did not love her. You loved the version of yourself that only existed in her eyes. Let me tell you something they don't print on Valentine's cards. All great romances are dialogues with the self, conducted through the medium of another person. It's the most elaborate, beautiful, and devastating form of narcissism that our species has yet devised. You think you were in a partnership? My friend, you were in a hall of mirrors. When you first met her, what did you see? Her? No. You saw a reflection. You saw a version of yourself, magnified and perfected. In her laughter, you heard the echo of your own wit. In her admiration, you saw the validation of your own strength. In her desire, you felt the confirmation of your own worth. She was the most beautiful mirror you had ever found. It showed you back to yourself, not as you were, but as you desperately wished to be. The hero, the poet, the misunderstood genius, the man of quiet, smoldering power. And you did the same for her. You reflected back her own desired self, the captivating muse, the serene goddess, the wild spirit. This is what we call the honeymoon phase. It is a frantic, unspoken agreement to polish each other's surfaces, to keep the glass clean and the angle just right, so that neither of you ever has to see a true, unfiltered image. It's an exquisite conspiracy of two. You weren't building a connection. You were building a shared mythology with a cast of two idealized protagonists. Schopenhauer, that cheerful old pessimist, would say this is all just the will to life, the biological imperative, tricking us with pretty stagecraft to get the grim business of procreation done. But it's more personal, more pathetic than that. It is the ego's desperate attempt to escape its own solitude by creating a beautiful echo. There is a strange, sad fable they tell in the mountains of the Caucasus about a man who fell in love with an echo. He would go to a specific cliff face and shout his poetry, his dreams, his deepest secrets, and the echo would return them to him, softened and made more profound by the journey across the valley. He mistook this perfect repetition for perfect understanding. He came to believe the echo was a mountain spirit who was his soulmate. He spent his life at the foot of that cliff, whispering to his own voice, growing old in the company of his perfect, inanimate admirer. He died happy, I suppose, but he died alone. Your relationship was that cliff. The deep conversations you had, were they truly dialogues, or were they monologues, where you paused only to allow the echo to confirm your own brilliance? The intimacy you felt, was it the thrill of being truly seen, or the comfort of being flawlessly mirrored? When the heartbreak came, it was not because the mirror broke. It was because the mirror, for one terrifying moment, decided to be a window. It happened suddenly. One day she looks at you, and the reflection is gone. Instead of the hero, she sees a tired, frightened man. Instead of your strength, she sees your need. Instead of your wisdom, she sees your dogma. She reflects back a truth you were not prepared to see, and you, in turn, do the same to her. You see her not as the goddess, but as a flawed, complex, and sometimes disappointing human being. The spell is broken. The Hall of Mirrors becomes a prison of harsh, fluorescent light. The heartbreak is the rage of the narcissist, whose favorite reflection has been stolen from him. You are not mourning the loss of her. You are mourning the death of the beautiful lie you built together. The entire wellness industry, a multi-trillion-dollar behemoth humming along on the fuel of our anxieties, is built on helping you become a better mirror for someone else. Be more confident. Be more successful. Be more emotionally articulate. Why? So your reflective surface is more appealing. It is all a grand project of self-commodification, but it misses the point entirely. The glimmer of real hope, the kind of hope that feels less like sunshine and more like the first clean breath after a long illness, is in the moment after the mirrors have all shattered. It is the terrifying, liberating silence when the echoes die. It is when you are both standing there, in the rubble of your shared illusions, covered in the dust of your broken mythologies, and you see each other for the first time, two separate, flawed, sovereign beings. Not reflections, not echoes, just people. This is a connection that is almost impossible to bear. It requires a humility that feels like self-annihilation. But if you can bear it, if you can resist the urge to start sweeping up the glass and building a new, smaller mirror, then you have a chance at something real. Something that is not about validation, but about witness. It is the quiet honor of being allowed to see another person's true face and the courage to let them see yours. So here is a riddle for you, whispered from one ghost to another. If your love for her was perfect because she saw no flaws in you, were you in love with a person or with a blind woman? You are not haunted by a memory. You are in withdrawal from a drug, and the ghost is the needle. I am going to tell you a secret so dangerous, so corrosive to the cathedral of romance we have all been forced to worship in, that it feels like a sin to even think it. It is this. Your brain does not know the difference between a person and a chemical. It does not love her. It loves the intoxicating, perfectly tailored cocktail of dopamine, oxytocin, norepinephrine, and serotonin that her presence synthesized in the dark, fizzing laboratory of your skull. She was not your soulmate. She was your dealer. The beginning of a romance is the purest, most potent drug hit known to man. Every text message is a small dose. Every shared glance, a line of uncut hope. Every touch, a flood that overwhelms the synapses until the world dissolves into a glorious, warm, meaningless haze. You feel alive, hyper-aware, brilliant. You are not experiencing love. You are experiencing a state of temporary, magnificent psychosis. A psychosis for two. And heartbreak? Heartbreak is not an emotional state. It is a physiological event. It is the brutal, cold turkey agony of withdrawal, the hollow ache in your solar plexus, the anxiety that tastes like old pennies, the obsessive, looping thoughts. These are not the poetic sorrows of a wounded heart. These are the classic symptoms of an addict deprived of his substance. The brain, a creature of pure, relentless craving, finds itself cut off from its supply, and it panics. So, what does it do? It does something miraculous and grotesque. Since it cannot have the catalyst, the person, it creates a phantom catalyst. It builds a ghost. It rummages through the archives of your memory and constructs a greatest hits compilation of her. The perfect smile, the specific scent of her hair on a pillow, the sound of her laugh, the warmth of her hand. It edits out her flaws, her moods, her annoying habits. It creates a purified, idealized, and infinitely more potent version of the person who is now gone. This ghost is not a memory. It is a neurological tool. Its purpose is to stimulate those same dormant reward pathways, to squeeze out a few last pathetic drops of the drug you crave. When you lie awake at night, obsessively replaying your last conversation, you are not seeking closure. Your brain is desperately trying to recreate the chemical conditions of her presence. You are an alchemist of agony, trying to turn the lead of her absence back into the gold of her attention. You are shaking the empty bottle, hoping for one last drop. There are old, frightening stories from the frost-rimmed shtetls of Eastern Europe about a spirit they called the Yednosh, the sweetness eater. It was said that this spirit did not haunt houses, but hearts. When a great love ended, the Yednosh would latch onto the grieving soul. It wouldn't cause pain. On the contrary, it would whisper the most beautiful memories back to the person, making them more vivid, more perfect than they ever were. It would feed the griever an endless stream of bittersweet nostalgia. The person would become addicted to this beautiful sorrow, willingly letting the Yednosh consume their life force in exchange for the ghostly comfort of what was lost. They were not haunted against their will. The neuroscientists, those cold-eyed priests of the material, have confirmed this. They can put a heartbroken man in a brain scanner and watch his synapses fire, and the images are indistinguishable from those of a cocaine addict in the throes of a desperate craving. The same regions light up: the ventral tegmental area, the nucleus accumbens, the ancient reptilian machinery of reward and desire. Your higher consciousness, your poetry, your supposed free will, it's all just a helpless passenger in a biological vehicle that is screaming for its drug. This is why you can't think your way out of it. You can't reason with an addiction. You can't negotiate with a withdrawal. Trying to use logic to overcome heartbreak is like trying to convince a starving wolf to take up vegetarianism. The beast does not care for your arguments. It only cares for its hunger. But in this cold, brutal, mechanical truth, there lies the only real hope. It is a harsh, clinical hope, but it is a sturdy one. If heartbreak is an addiction, then it can be treated like one. The cure is not found in grand romantic gestures or profound philosophical insights. The cure is found in the grim, unglamorous, and deeply empowering work of detoxification. You must starve the ghost. You must cut off its supply of attention, which is its oxygen. You must treat your own memories as a contaminated substance. This means a ruthless, disciplined quarantine. No more looking at old photos. No more listening to your song. No more indulging in the sweet, poisonous daydream of her return. You must treat your own mind as a compromised environment, a house that must be fumigated. It is a process of systematic, deliberate unhaunting. Every time the ghost whispers, you do not engage, you do not argue. You simply acknowledge the craving and turn your attention elsewhere. It is the hardest work a man can do. It is the act of forcing your own brain to rewire itself, synapse by painful synapse. It is the act of becoming the master of your own internal chemistry. So, here is my challenge to you, a dare whispered from one addict to another. You say you want to be free of her, but do you? Are you truly ready to let go of the exquisite pain, the beautiful sorrow, the tragic romance of your own haunting? Or do you, in the secret, shameful corners of your heart, still love the ghost more than you love yourself? Your indifference is not a shield. It is the most elaborate costume you have ever worn. Oh, I've seen it 1,000 times. The gossip of the walking wounded. A man gets his heart torn out, and what is the first thing he does? He joins a gym. He works 80 hours a week. He posts a picture of himself on a mountaintop with a caption about freedom. He sleeps with 3 new women in as many weeks, and his friends, his loyal, well-meaning, equally terrified friends, will slap him on the back and say, "That's it, brother. You're killing it. You're bulletproof." Bulletproof. What a perfect, damning word. A thing that is designed only to have violence bounce off its surface, while its interior remains unchanged and presumably empty. This is the great, tragic performance of modern male heartbreak. It is not a process of healing. It is a desperate, frantic piece of theater. The play is called The Man Who Cares Less, and you, my friend, are its unwilling star. Every grunt in the weight room is a line of dialogue. Every extra hour at the office is a scene change. Every new, meaningless conquest is a prop designed to convince the audience, an audience that exists only in your head, that you are fine. More than fine. You are better. You have been upgraded. The heartbreak was not a wound. It was a software update that removed the bug of human vulnerability. This is not strength. It is fear wearing the costume of discipline. It is the terrified flight of a man who has peeked into the abyss of his own sorrow and decided he would rather run himself to death than spend one honest minute at its edge. The ancient Stoics, whose wisdom we have butchered into motivational posters, would weep at this display. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his tent while the German hordes gathered at the borders of his empire, did not preach the denial of feeling. He preached the mastery of it. He taught himself to separate what was happening to him from his judgment about what was happening. He would have acknowledged the pain of loss as a natural event, like a storm or a plague. He would have sat with it, observed it, understood its nature, and refused to let it dictate his actions. He would not have tried to outrun it. To deny the pain is not stoicism. It is cowardice. There's a brutal piece of folklore they used to scare children with in the barracks of old Sparta. They told of a young warrior named Lycurgus who was taught that grief was a poison sent by the cowardly Athenians, a liquid that, if allowed to leak from the eyes, would corrode a man's armor from the inside out. One day, his brother, his dearest companion, was killed in a skirmish. Lycurgus felt the poison welling up behind his eyes, the terrible, hot sting of sorrow. But he remembered his training. He clenched his jaw, stood ramrod straight, and forced the tears back down. He did not cry. His armor remained gleaming, flawless. His comrades praised his strength. But the unshed poison did not vanish. It seeped inward. It coated his lungs, his heart, his very soul, with a cold, black lacquer. Over the years, he became the perfect soldier, unflinching, merciless, silent. But one day, during a victory parade, a child's laughter startled him, and he stumbled. He fell, and his magnificent armor, which had never been dented by an enemy sword, cracked open on the stone road. And out of it poured not blood and bone, but fine, black dust. He had been hollow for years. Your performance of indifference is that armor. It may impress the other boys in the barracks. It may even fool you for a time. But inside, the corrosion is spreading. Every feeling you suppress, every moment of honest sadness you smother with activity, you are turning another piece of your soul to dust. You are becoming a beautiful, hollow man. The tragic irony is that she, the ghost you are performing for, is the one person who would see through it instantly. She knew your tells. She knew the way your eye twitched when you were lying. She would see your frantic, joyless ambition for what it is, a monument to her absence. Your strength would not impress her. It would pity her. The true, quiet, and terrifyingly difficult path to freedom is to take off the armor, to have the courage to be weak, to admit, if only to yourself in the silence of your unobserved moments, that you are not fine. You are devastated. To allow the grief to be what it is, a great, cleansing fire. It will burn, it will hurt, it will reduce much of your old self to ash. But what grows back in the scorched earth is always stronger and infinitely more real than the hollow thing that was there before. This is the secret power of vulnerability. It is the act of dropping the shield and trusting that your own 2 feet are enough to hold you. It is the realization that true strength is not the ability to be unbreakable, but the grace to be broken and to put yourself back together again, scar by painful scar. So let me ask you this, you magnificent actor in your theater of one. When the applause dies down and the audience goes home and you are alone in the dark, taking off your costume, do you even recognize the man underneath? The heartbreak was not an injury. It was an excavation. And so we come to the final secret, the one that lies buried beneath all the others. We have exhumed the ghosts of your childhood. We have shattered the hall of mirrors. We have detoxified the alchemist's lab, and we have taken off the hollow armor. And what are we left with? A man in ruins, a landscape of wreckage. The smoking crater where a life used to be. And you look at this devastation and you call it failure. You call it loss. You call it the end. That is the last and most stubborn illusion to die. You believe the purpose of your life was to build something beautiful and permanent with her. A relationship, a future, a fortress against the lonely dark. And you believe that the demolition of that structure is a tragedy. But what if you are wrong? What if the structure was the cage? What if the demolition was the point? The heartbreak did not happen to you. It happened for you. It was not a random act of cosmic cruelty. It was a precise, targeted, and utterly necessary act of spiritual demolition. You were living in a small, beautifully decorated house with comfortable furniture and pleasant views. You thought it was your home, but it was a prison, built on the foundations of your childhood needs, walled with the bricks of your social conditioning, and roofed with the tiles of your romantic illusions. You would have happily lived there forever, never knowing the universe that existed outside its tiny, fragile walls. The heartbreak was the wrecking ball. It did not come to wound you. It came to liberate you. It came to shatter the prison so you could finally see the sky. Think of a geode. On the outside, it is a plain, ugly, unremarkable stone. You could hold it in your hand 1,000 times and never guess at the treasure within. It is only when the stone is shattered, broken open by a violent, decisive blow, that the secret is revealed. A breathtaking, crystalline cathedral of purple and white. A hidden universe of light and form. The hammer blow is not an act of destruction. It is an act of revelation. Your heart is that geode. The heartbreak was the hammer. The ancient myths understood this. All true heroes must make a journey to the underworld. Orpheus went to retrieve Eurydice. Inanna descended to appease her dark sister. They go into the darkness, into the land of the dead, thinking they are on a mission to rescue someone else. But that is always a lie. The hero never goes to the underworld to save another. The hero goes to the underworld to die. He must let his old self, his naive self, his untested self perish in the darkness. And if he is worthy, he returns, alone, but reborn, changed. He returns with the wisdom of the abyss in his eyes. Your journey through the hell of heartbreak was your descent. You thought you were trying to get her back, but your soul was on a much deeper, more important quest. It was trying to get you back. The you that existed before the masks, before the need for approval, before you built your life around the light in another person's eyes. This is the meaning of Nietzsche's most famous and most brutal aphorism. What does not kill me makes me stronger. It is not a call to simply endure pain. It is a call to recognize pain as the fundamental tool of self-creation. The blacksmith's hammer is not an enemy to the steel. It is the force that beats it into a sword. This is amor fati in its purest form. To love your fate, not just to accept it, but to love it. To look back at the rubble of your life, at the woman who was the catalyst for its destruction, and to feel a strange, terrible, and overwhelming sense of gratitude. To thank her not for the love, but for the loss. To thank her for the gift of the wound, because the pain excavated you. It dug out all the soft, unexamined parts of your soul. It forced you to confront the ghosts you had sedated, the addictions you had enabled, the hollow armor you had mistaken for strength. The pain carved you, and now into that empty, excavated space, something new can finally grow. Something that is entirely, authentically, and unshakably your own. You can finally build a house with no walls, whose roof is the infinite sky. So this is the final, haunting truth. The goal was never to win her love. The goal was to lose it. The purpose of the entire journey was to end up right here, alone, broken, and for the first time in your life, completely and terrifyingly free. And so, my friend, my fellow ruin, I leave you with one last question, whispered from the heart of the abyss. The heartbreak gave you two things, the memory of the prison and the key to its door. Which one will you choose to carry?